Welcome to Holistic Health is Hot, where your journey to sculpting your dream body meets holistic health. I'm your host, Ashley Roberts. Here, we're going to chat about mindset hacks that have completely transformed my life and dive deep into nutrition and movement that will help transform yours. We're going to get into the intense connection between mind, body, and soul so you can glow from the inside out. Let's get into it. And remember, holistic health is hot. Welcome back to another episode of Holistic Health is Hot. I'm so excited to get into this episode. Oh my gosh, I literally say that every single freaking time. I will say something different one of these days, but I am excited about this episode, especially too, it's the beginning of 2024. I'm recording this on January 1st, so happy freaking New Year. I recorded a whole podcast episode on my intention for the new year and just a little bit about where I'm at. So if you want a little bit more of a personal update, go ahead and go back to the last episode. But today we are talking about how to stop letting your past hold you back. This is a tough one because it's something that seems like it could be so simple to just be like, okay, yeah, I'm moving on. But unfortunately, it's not. So often we get attached to this version of ourselves and we think that we're just stuck in that identity. And honestly, I did that for so long. When I was in college, I told myself I was the chubby one who wasn't cute or smart and no one wanted to talk to her. Like, that was my truth for 4 years. And guess what? When you tell yourself a story for that long, you 1000% believe it. And the only way to actually undo that rewiring and undo that story of yourself is for you to actually make the changes. And trust me, I get it. It's so exhausting and you feel like there's no way out. So I get it. But I am living proof that you can completely shift your reality. You know, I went from being the chubby girl in college that felt like no one wanted to talk to her to becoming a health and fitness professional. And look, I'm not going to lie and say that you just magically one day are like, okay, perfect, I'm healed, great. I'm creating this new story of myself, but I'm going to go over how to really stop the fear and some actual things that you can do to actually start rewiring your brain and rewriting the narrative of yourself. So first off, I think it's really important to understand the impact of the past. So often we look for evidence of this story or this narrative that we've created. Another example, I have so many examples of me thinking I am a certain way because somebody said something or, maybe your parents said something, whatever. Like, all of our thoughts, feelings, and emotions come from a past event or a past version of yourself or something that somebody said. Like, that is what happens. Again, we're always looking for evidence of the story to actually be true. And for me, I have so many of these, but another example is when I was in junior high. And just to give you some context, junior high, I was so shy and quiet and mute. And honestly, that was probably some of the hardest years of my life because I was so stuck in my head and just so afraid of the world at that point. And, 7th grade, that's junior high. That's when you go from elementary school to being with kids that you've been with. You're since you were 5 years old. And now you go to this new school with a ton of new people. And it was really terrifying for me. So I had a group of friends and they were all I feel like on the more reserved side, very smart. I remember going to the library for lunch to read or study or whatever. And so that's just kind of give you some context on the kind of people that I was hanging out with. I always felt like I was in the wrong place. And I never felt like I had found my group when I was that young. And so I was always confused, always in my head, hanging out with the people I went to elementary school with. But I'm walking with a group of girls this way. A group of guys is walking this way. One guy yells as we're walking past, "Hey guys, I'm going to ask an ugly girl out on purpose. Hey, Ashley, want to go out?" In front of both groups. So the group of guys, the group of girls. And I am just mortified. I probably ran away crying. I don't really know. I don't remember. I just kind of blacked that part out because I was so embarrassed. But then from that moment on, I was like, I'm ugly, I'm XYZ, I'm this. And truthfully, it's been really hard for me to think of myself as pretty. And, you know, my whole life, it's been hard for me. Oh, whoa. I did not think I would get emotional right now. But it's just something that has truly been a struggle my whole entire life. And I think so. I've had people tell me I'm pretty probably my whole life, but because he had told me that I was ugly in that moment in front of people, like that to me made me really think that I wasn't cute. Or, you know, like every time somebody did tell me I was pretty, it was because they felt bad for me or something like that. Like I created this whole story in my head of I'm not pretty, I'm not beautiful because of this one thing that this one guy said one time. And again, like it's been really hard for me to, even now, sometimes I still like struggle with how I look. And obviously looks aren't the only thing that matters. But anyways, I think it's just been really hard to see myself as a pretty person, even being on Gold Rush. Like I still, being a fucking 49er cheerleader, like I still struggled with how I looked and how I felt about how I looked. And again, it's been a struggle my whole life. So wow, that was like, I was not expecting to really go into detail on that. But I think the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, holy shit, that really impacted my life for a really, really long time and still kind of does. This is another little tangent, but like, be fucking nice to everyone. You have no idea what your words actually do to people. And I've kind of always been this person that I don't like to talk shit about people. I remember sitting in a car with girls that I was friends with in high school, and this was getting towards the end of our friendship, but just talking shit about this girl that was walking by, like, oh my gosh, like her outfit is so ugly. Why would she wear that? Who does she think she is? Blah, blah, blah. And I just remember being like, why do you care? Like, why are you judging other people so harshly? And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've never talked shit about someone, because like everybody gossips at some point in their life. But I do feel like I'm one of those people who's always hyper aware of that, because I put myself in the other person's shoes, and I don't want to be talked shit about just as much as like other people don't. But I think it's important to be that person that actually stops people when they're talking shit about other people, instead of just going along and nodding your head. Like, stick up for people. I think that's something that's not done enough, especially like as girls. We can be so hard on each other, and you just never know what someone's going through. So be kind to everyone. Wow. Again, tangent that I was not expecting to really talk about, but I think it's important. And like I said, the little teeny tiny things that, I mean, maybe that's not teeny tiny, but it's actually funny because the guy that had said that to me later on in life, I think in college or maybe even post-college, I don't even remember, maybe like, yeah, whatever, end of college or like right after I graduated, I saw the guy that said that to me, and I told him, I was like, that, I know you probably don't even remember this, but what you said to me in 7th grade haunted me for a really long time. And he was like, I don't even remember saying that. Like, he was like, oh my God, I was such a little shit. Like, I am so sorry. Like, you're beautiful, blah, blah, blah. Like, saying all these things. And I was like, it's fine. I've moved on from it. But like, that really impacted me. And yeah, I think still does sometimes. And I'm sure there were other things that there was other evidence that I had found that made me have that narrative of myself, but that was like the one big one that really stood out to me. Another story that I used to tell myself is that I was dumb. I just had this fear of speaking up because I was afraid I was going to sound stupid. And even in high school, I just remember classes always gave me so much anxiety. And honestly, all grades, like elementary, junior high, high school, college, I always was just terrified of being in class because I was afraid the teacher was going to call on me and I was going to get it wrong and I was going to sound stupid and people were going to think I'm stupid. And again, I lived with this narrative my whole life, and I don't even know where this came from, but I think, actually, now that I'm thinking about, probably just because I've never been a good test taker. Like, I honestly struggled so hard. I would have to study so hard to even get like decent grades. And I don't know. Like, I just don't have a brain that's good at test taking. And also, I have so much anxiety around school and testing and everything like that I think it was just always so stressful to me. So when I went to go take the test, like, I was questioning myself. Like, I was always all over the place with what I thought. And I was like, okay, I studied for this. You should know this. But then I didn't. And so I think I just like never did well on testing and my SATs. Oh my God. My SATs were so bad. I don't even remember what the scoring is, but it was bad. Let me tell you this. And I remember like one of my close friends got like close to 100%. And I was like, I'm stupid. Like, I'm just stupid. That's just who I am. I'm never going to be a smart person. Even throughout college, kind of still live that narrative of I'm not smart. You know, I was like, C's get degrees, you know, whatever. I'm here for the life experiences. Then I actually started finance classes and I started to do pretty well in there. I'm like, okay, like numbers, maybe this is for me. But still, like school was always so hard for me. I don't learn that way. Now, post college, you know, starting my own business, becoming a coach, learning all these things, like I have learned so much and I'm like, have finally rewired my brain to believe, whoa, I'm actually really smart and I actually know what I'm talking about. But I think it's been a struggle for me again, my whole life of figuring out, okay, just because I didn't do good in school doesn't mean I'm not smart. And I think people equate that a lot. Getting good grades equals you're smart. Getting bad grades equals you're dumb. And that's just not how it is. But again, it's the story that I created of myself and I looked for evidence. And the evidence was I didn't get very good grades, so I'm not smart. But again, it took me so long to actually rewire my brain and prove to myself that I am a smart person. Another thing too is like we can actually make up evidence. I know our brains look for evidence all around and yeah, maybe, you know, some guy did say something to me. Cool, that's evidence. You know, maybe something growing up a parent said to you or how a parent acted, or maybe you saw, a parent or a sibling or whatever do something and so that created a narrative for you. But we also could just make it up. Like we just make shit up in our heads because I think our brains are just wired to think worst case scenario. It's like a protective mechanism, you know, and that's great that our brains want to keep us safe all the time. But honestly, it kind of hurts us sometimes because we make shit up. That doesn't even make sense. Like, and I do that for sure, like all the time. But I remember in college, I had this story in my head that I was fat and no one wanted to talk to me because I was fat. Literally no one has ever said anything to me that made me think that, oh, this person doesn't want to talk to me because I'm fat. Like there is no actual physical evidence other than my own brain making that up. And so it's important to call yourself out on your bullshit because that can happen. And again, like since you believe it so fully, it is so fucking hard to think anything else. Like, again, I think I've used this example before, but someone can tell you you're pretty, and depending on how you feel that day, you could believe them or not. Because I feel like I've had people be like, oh, you're so pretty. And then I'm like, you're fucking lying because I feel like shit. But if I'm feeling good about myself and someone says, oh, you look pretty, I'm like, you know, like, thank you. And I actually take the compliment. And it's our own internal battle. It's you versus you, girlfriend. So let's create narratives that actually help you in this life because life is hard enough as it is. The moral of me telling you all these different narratives that I had created of myself is because it's important to actually take a step and look back and see like, where did these narratives come from? Like any insecurities that you have or any story you tell of yourself, think back and be like, okay, where is the evidence? Where did this come from? It doesn't just come out of thin air unless you make shit up like I did. But like there were other little things that were evidence that pointed to me thinking fat, you know, because I was fat. People didn't want to talk to me. Also, as a side note, I thought I was so overweight in college. And I look back at pictures now that I am like in a good relationship with myself, my body, food. Like I look back and I'm like, I literally wasn't that big. Like I definitely was unhealthy and I was puffy and I was inflamed because I was drinking all the time and partying and not sleeping and whatnot, but like I wasn't like severely overweight. So that's again why your mind is so powerful and body dysmorphia is a real fucking thing. But anyways, it's so important to look back and be like, where did this come from? Is this from childhood? Is this from something my parents said to me one time? And sorry parents, but like a lot of our programming comes from our parents, and it's not putting the blame on them because they also were raised in a way that they were programmed in a certain way. And so it's just this constant thing of evolution that just happens. Like, our parents were raised a certain way. They have certain programs, beliefs around certain things, their own stories that could trickle out into our, childhood and our feelings and our thoughts and our emotions. So it's not to blame our parents, but it's just a fact of we all get our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, beliefs from how we were raised. And it just is what it is. But it's our job to be able to take a look and figure out where these thoughts, feelings, and emotions and beliefs are coming from and choose differently. Decide that you are not going to be thinking that anymore and you're going to create your own narrative. Another thing too that can kind of hold us back is the fear of repeating mistakes. And I think this is something that's interesting because we think that just because we maybe fuck up or make a mistake one time that the same thing's going to happen again. I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know. I feel like you try a diet, it doesn't work. You try a diet, it doesn't work. And then you try to do it actually in a healthy way. Maybe you sign up for a coach and you still have this fear in the back of your mind that it's not going to work for you. But the reality is it was the diet that wasn't working. It wasn't you. And so, again, just it's so easy to be afraid of doing things because of the fear of failure, because maybe we failed in the past or we're afraid we're going to repeat the mistake again. But looking at it as objectively of you and whatever the thing is, because you are a different human and you get to decide differently. So you have the choice to not make that mistake again and learn from your mistakes and move forward. I want to talk about the role of self-doubt because I believe it's a major barrier to personal growth. So truthfully, self-doubt, all it does is hold you back. That's literally all it does. It doesn't do anything for you. I know it can be easy, again, to fall in these traps, and self-doubt comes from these stories we create of ourselves, these narratives we create of ourselves. And so self-doubt comes from these stories. We keep going back to high school and college and all the things today, but I remember in high school, probably college too, I would tell myself, I probably failed that test. So I wouldn't get my hopes up, because if I got anything above an F, then I'd be like, hell yeah, I didn't fail like I thought I did. This is not how you should go through life. But for me, I did that a lot, and I doubted myself so then I wouldn't disappoint myself, which literally makes no sense. And it's one of those things where hope for the worst, expect for the best. Wait, no. Expect the worst, hope for the best. Instead of just fuck self-doubt, this is going to be amazing. And then if it's not, okay, that's also okay. It's cool, I'm going to get an A on this test. I bet if I told myself I'm going to get an A on this test, I would have so much more confidence going into it and would probably actually get a better grade. But because I'm I probably failed this test, I went into it thinking I'm going to fail, probably overthought every single question, and then, didn't fail, but probably got a C. And it's if I would have gone into it with confidence, probably would have helped me out a lot. So again, self-doubt literally does nothing but give us anxiety. And again, whether or not the outcome turns out the way we want it to, what is the point of doubting ourselves? I think self-doubt also kind of comes from fear of failing, fear of not being accepted. And the thing is, fear is real, but the way our body reacts to fear is very outdated, our actual brain's chemistry. When we feel fear, our brains react as though we're being chased by a bear or a mountain lion or whatever. But in reality, starting a business or posting on social media isn't life-threatening. Our brains just haven't caught up to the modern world. So when we hesitate to take that first step because of fear, remind yourself that it's just your brain protecting you. A bear is not actually chasing you. A mountain lion is not trying to eat you. It's just the way our brains have not evolved yet. And so just remember, feel the fear and do it anyways. Fuck self-doubt, fuck fear, do it anyways. And look, obviously I'm talking about for good, healthy things like learning to snowboard for the first time or starting a new hobby or starting your fitness journey, signing up with a coach. We have these fears because of self-doubt, because we think that we're not going to be able to do it. But in reality, the fear is the thing that's actually holding us back. And these narratives that we create of ourselves hold us back. So anyways, fuck self-doubt. Let's talk about how you can overcome the past. Kind of mentioned this, but the biggest thing to do is list out your current beliefs. Oh, hi, Luna. She's like, Mom, I'm bored. So first you're going to list out your current beliefs, current stories that you have about yourself. You know, that could be, I'm fat, I'm never going to lose weight, I'm not smart, I'm ugly. Like, I'm sorry, I'm speaking from my own past trauma, but whatever you truly feel. And you do not have to share this with anyone. It is for you and only you. So go do a little journaling session, write down all of your narratives, things you're struggling with, what you actually feel about yourself. Then you're going to figure out where the heck they came from. So, you know, again, like, is it from your childhood? Did you just make it up? Is it just something you heard somebody say? Like, where did this thought or story come from? Next, you're going to exonerate your old self. So you're going to forgive yourself. And I know that sounds simple, but there was something that I went through that I didn't even realize I hadn't forgiven myself for. And I remember I was in therapy and she was like, we were talking about it and I was still upset about it. And she was like, did you forgive yourself? And I was like, what? What do you mean? Like, why would I forgive myself? And she was like, have you ever said it out loud? Like, that you forgive yourself? And I was like, no. She's like, I think you need to do that. And I shit you not. I said, I forgive you, Ashley, for blah, blah, blah. And I swear, I felt like a weight had been lifted off of my shoulders. Again, because so often we attach ourselves to a past version of ourselves. And we're like, oh, I did this one bad thing, so I'm a bad person. When it's like, no, that was a bad thing that you did, but that doesn't mean you're a bad person. And if you're going to continue to do the same things, you know, maybe that's not great. But if you are changing who you are as a human, you get to forgive yourself. Because we're always learning, growing, and evolving. And it's unfair for you to attach yourself to a past version of yourself that is no longer you anymore. You get to move on. You get to move forward. So one, you got to forgive yourself. There's a couple other things you can do too, like writing a letter, burning it, like a burning ceremony. I just did this recently with like my beliefs around money. And pretty much what you do is you write down all your current beliefs, and you can do this again with this exact thing, but like write down all your current beliefs on one side, write down all the beliefs that you want to have on the other side, and then you literally burn it. Be careful with this though, because I did it in my office and I kind of was freaking out, and I should have done it near water or had like a bowl to do it near. Like, please be careful and don't burn anything down. Make sure that you actually, you're doing it somewhere safe. Okay. But anyways, I burned that and it honestly felt really good after I was done being afraid I was going to burn my house down. Also, meditation. Like, you need to exonerate your old self. And if that means meditating or journaling, reflecting, forgiving, whatever it is. And sometimes, you know, this journey is not a straight paved road. Like, you don't just get to be like, okay, I'm just going to try that one. It'll work. Maybe you have to do all 5. Maybe you only have to do 1. I don't know. It really depends on you, who you are as a human, and honestly, how deep these programs and stories run. For me, like I said, that one about being ugly has really been hard for me to give up. And wow, honestly, I feel like this has been a therapy session because I don't even think I realized how deep rooted that belief was until we just kind of talked about it. And I probably talked to my therapist about it before, but like so long ago. And yeah, it was really helpful for me to just talk about it and then exonerate it. And yeah, that's another thing you do. Talk about it with a friend. Maybe you feel comfortable talking about it with other people. Talk about it with a friend. If you have a coach, talk about it with your freaking coach, because this all goes into your journey and your life. And when I coach clients, we talk about everything, like your beliefs about everything, because your health and fitness journey goes so much deeper than just what you eat and what you work out. There's a mental side of things, and the mental side of things is tricky, but it's important that you focus on it and honor yourself in a way so you can actually move forward and become this new superhuman version of yourself. And the other thing that you can do is just creating the new narrative. Literally write out the new story of yourself. So, you know, we figured out, we listed our beliefs. We figured out where these stories are coming from. Then we're exonerating ourselves, forgiving ourselves, And then next, we're going to create the new story, create a brand new identity. I wrote this post that said, why rebranding the fuck out of yourself is going to help you lose weight quicker. And this is actually so true, because when I decided I was vegan, which before I get into this, do not be vegan. It is not healthy. Unless you're doing it for the animals, then there's ways you can do it, but it's hard. You need protein, okay? But when I rebranded myself to be quote unquote vegan, it changed how I acted, because it wasn't just not eating meat, I was vegan, quote unquote. So it was like so easy for me to be like, oh no. If someone was like, oh, you want a burger? I'm like, no, I don't eat meat. You want some nachos? It's like, no, I don't eat regular cheese because I'm vegan. And it's just so much easier when you embody the identity of the human you want to be. It's so much easier to make decisions based on your future self rather than your past self. So kind of some questions that are helpful when you're trying to figure out your new identity, this new human you want to be, is what is the version of you who easily and effortlessly attracts and manifests that goal? Again, maybe you want to lose weight. Maybe you have a body goal. Who is this version of you that easily and effortlessly has this thing that you want? Okay, you're a health and fitness girly. Cool. What does she do in the mornings? What is she doing in the evenings? How much is she moving her body? What is she eating? Like, these are all questions that you get to ask yourself after you decide what kind of human you want to be. And there's no right or wrong way. If you don't want to lose weight, you don't want to be a health and fitness girly, fine. You don't have to be. It's your choice, but it's up to you to actually take action to become that version of you. Another question is, how do you show up in the world? What are some characteristics that describe you? Like, you can completely change your whole personality. And I've done this multiple times. I have been so many different humans in this lifetime, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know, in my last episode, I talked about seasons of life, and I think there are seasons of life with your personality too. Like, I was once a party girl. Not really a party girl anymore. You know, I'm the health and fitness girly. I was a dancer girl for a while. Like, you get to change. And that's the best part about this whole crazy thing is you get to decide. You get to choose. You just got to take action and make a decision. Another question is, what characteristics are no longer serving you? What must you let go of now to fully embody the truest version of yourself? Okay? So, what are we going to do? We're going to recap this one more time just because I really want to ingrain this in your brains. List out what your current beliefs are. Next, you're going to figure out where these beliefs came from. Number 3, you're going to exonerate your old self, whether that's doing a burning ceremony or just forgiving yourself, whatever it may be. You're letting go of that old self. And then next, you're going to rewrite the narrative. Think about who you want to be, create a brand new identity, and step into that person. That about covers it. Just to kind of recap, we talked about the impact of the past and how self-doubt can really hinder your future self, how you can actually overcome the past, and how to create a brand new narrative of yourself and rebrand the fuck out of yourself. And remember, you get to decide your own story, not Joe Schmo from high school or that one person that said something negatively to you one time. You get to decide. So go start right now. Like right now. Thank you guys so much for listening and tuning into this episode of Holistic Health is Hot. If you enjoyed this episode, please screenshot it and share it on your story. It would mean the absolute world to me. I absolutely love making these, and if you love it, it would mean the world if you shared it with your friends so my podcast can grow. Okay, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one.